Okay, welcome back again. This is part 5. In this part, we're going to go over the receiver module on the receiver board. Again, this is the one that came with the RFA, as I've discussed in the previous video, but I already have this one in position. Again, the wires, the pins that are normally on this are straight, but I pre-bent them to put them to get this module to lay very flat and even with the board itself so that it's easier for me to hide. This will actually be hidden inside the helmet, so this is the part that I want as flat as possible. Even though it's very wide, I'll still be able to hide this inside the helmet. And again, I've pre-cut all my wires for this, following the instructions on page 9 of the PDF for the AXE 213 kit. Again, I'll link to this so you can find it. But again, just like I said in the previous video, these green lines I'm using the black wires for, and then the black line here I'll be using a green, and then this black line up here, that's the antenna. I'll be using the red wire for that. So let's jump right into that. Okay, so what we're going to do first is solder this module into place. Now I've got that held there. I'm just going to solder all these pins really quick. Get in there. There's 8 pins all together. So we're going to get these first 4 really quick. Come on now. There you go. Okay. I don't know if you can hear those cars outside, but it's been raining quite a bit, so it's making a lot of noise. Okay. Again, I know this is kind of tedious, but on this particular set of videos, I really didn't want to do this in like a high-speed time lapse, but that's all there is to that. Just soldering those into these pin lines here. So the first one I think we'll do is I don't know. Actually, let's do these ground lines. Let's do all of those first, because if I'm not mistaken, oh, you know what I'll do first? First I'm going to do the 5-volt line, which is closest to the module itself. Now what I'm going to do that differs from the instructions, what they have you doing in the instructions is running the 5-volt pin that's on the top of the module here to the 5-volt that's on the board, and then the lower 5-volt, they have you going to that as well. What I'm going to do is actually on these pin sections, I'm actually going to bring a line from one 5-volt to the other and then just connect that once to the 5-volt on the board. So what I'm having here is I'm just going to do a jumper from the lower 5-volt to the upper. This alone won't give either side power, but once I solder in the 5-volt to the board, that actually brings power from the batteries. It'll give it power. So let's do that. Okay, that's the first piece. Again, I tried to make these nice and even and flat, so on this one nothing will be overlapping itself. So this next one, we're going to be going from the ground all the way down here on the bottom, this second pin, and then to the lower ground on the top here. If you can see that here, we're going to be going from this ground on this pin line to this ground on the bottom pin line, and then this bottom pin, or this bottom pin line here, will be connected to the ground on this on the board itself, and then this 5-volt will connect over here to the positive on this side. So that's what we're gonna do actually. And then for this upper ground, there's another ground on the top here. We're gonna hit that one with a slightly longer wire. We're going to connect that one to the lower one again. Now I know I could easily just make a really short wire and jumper it to jumper both of these to that, but I think this looks a little bit better. Plus that'd be a really small piece. I think that'd probably be even smaller than this one here. So I think that this looks good. I'm not going to need these other pins or these pin holes for anything else. So, but what I am going to need when it comes to hooking this up to the mechanism that opens or operates the servos, when it comes to hooking this up to that, I will need to run them both on the same ground. Not the same battery pack, but in order for this to operate the switch, or operate as a switch, I will need to run them on the same ground. They'll have to share a ground in order for that to work. So leaving some of these extra pins open and connected to the ground will make that easier, because depending on where this is going to sit inside the helmet, it'll give me an easy way to find a pin I can connect to. See, now just trim those up a little bit. Now that looks great. Now we'll take the short ground line and we'll connect the bottom pin to the top pin on the ground on the board, and we'll leave that lowest one there for the battery packs themselves. So then we'll be able to actually connect the batteries. So let's do this one really quick here. Hopefully I'm still keeping these videos short. I know, again, I think that this is kind of tedious if I were a viewer, but this is something that I haven't seen in some of these how-to videos, is people not showing you all these little tiny details and stuff. So that's kind of what I wanted to showcase. Now this green line is going to connect to this RX pin right here, and we're going to connect to this bottommost data line. So what I'm going to do is right above where I connected the ground, I'm going to move that wire a little bit and then run this into there and then into the RX pin slot. You just get that in there just like that, and then I'll just leave the rest of the pins open because again, this is all connected, so we don't have to worry about soldering everything or making more jumper wires or anything like that. And it's all nice and clean and flat. There. Okay. Trim these up a little bit. Okay. Oh, I think I hit the mic again. Again, I'm sorry about that. Okay. And lastly, or second to lastly, we'll connect this little 5-volt wire. And what we're going to do there is make sure that we've got the pin line for the 5-volt. So we don't want to connect that to ground, otherwise it won't do anything, because that'll mean that the 5 volts on the module aren't actually connected to power, so it'll be all meaningless. So I've got that in the right place, so let's solder that where it belongs. Okay. Do a quick little trim. Okay. And this one. And now, finally, lastly, I will connect the antenna, and that's on this very top row. So again, I'll bend this around, and then I'll again use one of my gator clamps to hold that into place and solder it in. Okay, get a good amount on there. Right in there. Okay. Now I could trim this up. Nope. That was my alligator clip. Came out of my paper clip there. Okay. Now the antenna's into play. Like that. I'm not sure if I have this pin in the right location, but we'll find out. Hopefully, when I hook these up, as long as I've done everything correctly, and I'm not a total butthead and forgot something that I did the first time, this will all work perfect. But again, this is technically only the second time that I've done this, so if I screwed up, darn it. But I'm pretty sure I did this exactly the same way I did it the first time. Okay. Now, that's the positive for the battery pack. Now let's connect the ground. Bend that around there. Now, as I talked about in one of the first videos, with the battery packs for this receiver module, that since it's going in the helmet, like I said, I wanted to use the single battery holders, just because when it comes to putting them in the helmet, I'll actually be able to put these up inside, like around the side of the helmet, alongside of my head. That way they're not poking into my head, and I've given myself enough wire with this so that I can manipulate them all around the helmet and put them in the best, most comfortable positions. So let's grab some batteries, and now you can see these wires are kind of connected. What I did is I took some zip ties and ran them through to help keep this wires under control. I'm just going to put these batteries into place, and again, I'm not sure if I put that pin in the right location, but what I'll do is bring the transmitter over, and we'll press the test button, and both lights blink. That means they're communicating together. So hooray for me on my second attempt at actually putting these together on video. I was successful, and hopefully so were you if you've been following along. So great. Everything went together perfect. Again, press the little test button. You'll see this light blink and that light blink. Boom. They're communicating with each other. And just to be absolutely sure, we'll move them a little bit apart so the wires aren't touching, and boom. Again, wireless connection. Now from here on out, it gets a little bit more complicated, and we'll go through it step by step, but personally, the hard part's over. We now have the ability to press a button and make something happen over here. So, hoorah! It took no programming whatsoever. Don't have to hook into these little connections and program anything. The way that I'm actually going to hook this up to the Pickaxe proto board, which will be what actually controls the servo. The way that I'm going to hook this up to it, again, this won't require any programming knowledge because I don't really have it, and if you're watching this, you probably don't either. So, again, yeah. So, like I was saying, it won't require any extra programming. It'll just work as a complicated trigger, basically, but wireless. So, again, just for giggles, press the button, boom, the wires or the system communicates. So we did it. All right, see you in the next video.